Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a quick project for you today. I want to do something with these scripture cards from Bythewell. You can see they come in this canvas bag. They have the two little book rings there, and I want to do something different. I've done these in a bunch of different ways in the past, but this time I want to create a little stand for this. Now, admittedly, I have never done this before, so I'm hoping that it's going to work out at this point. But the first thing that I want to do is punch the holes in my cards. So originally I was going to do this so that I'm basically going to kind of create like a desktop easel for them, but I was going to have them kind of with the holes at the top. But I was flipping through the cards and I realized that some of the scriptures are pretty near the top, and I was afraid if I punched the holes there, I would cut through some of the words. So I'm going to go ahead and punch the holes all on the left side of these cards because they're, I think, maybe designed a little bit more for that. But I went ahead and pulled out this one. This is the one that has kind of the most script that is more like toward the left margin than the others. And so I'm going to use this to kind of determine where all of my holes are going. You could totally measure this if you wanted to get them evenly, properly spaced or whatever. I'm just basically using this card to make sure that I'm not losing any of the words. And then I'm going to punch my holes, just eyeballing it. And then I'm going to use that to sort of create this little template. I cut down to the same size as the cards, which is 4x4. And then I'm using a pen to mark those holes and then indicating which is the top, and going to use my We Are Memory Keepers hole punch here. And I'm going to go through and punch all of these holes. I won't make you watch me do that, but I'm basically just using that first card there to, or that template that I made, stacking several up together, kind of fiddling with them a little bit here. They kind of kept sliding around, but and then I'm just going to go through and punch the entire stack of these cards using that template to make sure that I get all the holes in relatively the same place. So just making sure those are lining up okay. And then I won't make you watch me do all of that, but I went ahead and did all the holes first. So my idea is to create, like I said, a little kind of tabletop easel. And I have not done this before. Originally, I thought I would use like a box, cracker box or whatever, but I was afraid that chipboard would be just a little bit too thin. And so I have this mailer, which is like heavy duty cardboard, and I think it's going to be perfect for it. I actually use this when I'm like ironing some of that, fusible web stuff to some fabric. And so you'll see kind of some of that, but I went ahead and just trimmed this down. Now this ends up being about 9 inches long, and I think about 4.5 inches tall. And then I just took advantage of the fact that it already had a bend in it from it being a mailer. So I used the edge that had that. And so that's like the top part. And I'm just kind of getting a feel for where I want to put this. And then I'm going to trim this down. Like I said, when I sat down to do this, I had a rough idea how I wanted this to work, but I didn't really know if it was actually going to. So I'm just measuring now the length. This is the 9 inches because I want to be able to have it so that when I'm flipping through these cards, there's enough to support both sides. So if that makes sense. So now I'm just going to I need to trim down the height of it. So I'm going to go through here and I'm just marking. It looks like 4.5. Yeah. So I'm just using my ruler, marking all the way down because I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to trim that down. I realized later that I could use my trimmer, which was a little bit easier, but for this part, I'm just using my X-Acto knife and my Tim Holtz ruler with the side that has the steel blade. Whenever you're using an X-Acto knife, it's really helpful if you have a ruler that has a steel edge in it, as opposed to like plastic or whatever. It's just helpful. So I had to stand up here for a second so I could make sure I was holding down my ruler really well. And then now you can see this will be kind of the top part of my little tabletop easel. It's got a little bit of a bend in there, but by the time I get it covered, you won't notice that. So I'm just now kind of going to try to figure out the best way to do this. So I put these roughly where I thought they will go on here, and then I'm marking these holes, just going through with the same holes from the cards. and I don't, obviously can't get my hole punch up there. So I have this awl, and because it's a heavy duty one, it kind of tapers toward the end so you can make your holes bigger as you're going through. This is what I use for a lot of my bookbinding projects. And so I'm just actually taking this cardboard most of the way up this awl, just to get that same size hole, and it works pretty well. You'll see, I'm going to try to put these rings in here now, and it's a little bit fiddly because I have these holes too close together, which I wasn't thinking about when I made these holes. So at this point I'm like struggling with it. I can get them through there, but it's kind of a hassle. And in the end, I end up actually making new holes. They do fit. They're just very, it's very tight in there. So, but this kind of gives you the idea of what I'm going for here with this little project. So, I have this piece, and now I need to do the kind of the inside support piece. And this is going to be basically a little W-shaped piece. I folded it. I took advantage of the fact that it was already folded in half. And then I had to trim it down, so that's what I'm doing here. And then you can see that along that, I left about an inch, I think, from each edge. And I'm going to get my scoreboard here, and I'm going to score, I'm going to say it's about an inch from each edge. And I'm having to do this. This is really, really thick cardboard. So I'm scoring it with my bone folder, and then on both sides here, and I'm just kind of lining it up. I couldn't even use my regular bone folder that goes with my scoreboard because it just wasn't sturdy enough to get down into those grooves. So that's why I'm using my ruler as well. And then I'm using that bone folder to kind of fold up this section here, this 1 inch section. And then I'm just going to go over it multiple times here, making sure that it's done really well, because this is the part that's going to actually adhere to the inside of my cover, essentially. So I'm going to just making sure my ruler is lined up, going along, trying to make that crease there. Just if I was to fold it, I knew I would get it folded crooked. So working up against the edge of my ruler just made that easier. So you can kind of see it shapes, it makes a little like W shape. There's like a mountain section in the middle. And then those two end pieces are what are going to glue to the actual front and back flaps. So you can kind of see, I'm going to put these little clips on here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Again, I have never done this before. I'm sure there are probably better, easier, faster ways to do this. I was just kind of working as I went, trying to problem solve my way through this. And so I left a few of my little mistakes in here so you could see this process. So again, I have these rings, and I know that they're going to be hard in there. So I think I'm actually going to put those on the back side, which is what I ultimately end up doing. I'm going to cover that with paper anyway. And so you'll never be able to see those holes. It's on the back side. It's not going to be an issue. So as you can see, the Bythewell4God paper is a little bit too small for this particular thing. I could have pieced it together, but I went ahead and pulled out some paper that I had in my stash. These are a variety of Felicity Jane papers that I pulled out. The coloring is a little bit off because a couple of those are actually green. They look kind of gray in the camera here, but I'm just going through trying to decide which one I like the best. And in the end, I picked this kind of terracotta one. And I didn't put it, I wanted it to be just a plain paper instead of a pattern. I didn't want it to detract from the beautiful scripture cards. So I am going to now basically cover this close to the same way that I would do any kind of book cover. So, I have this is a 12 by 12 sheet. I'm just going to use the whole entire sheet. I'm going to cover this entire thing with my scrapbook.com double-sided adhesive. You can see I left a couple little strips in there. That's not going to hurt anything. It's going to be glued down just fine. But because this is such thick cardstock, and because it's already folded, I have to do this in just a little bit of a different way, because I want to make sure that I am allowing for that area up and around that fold. So I'm going to just only glue down one side at a time. So I'm taking the adhesive or the backer paper off of just this one side here. And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit off camera. This is a big piece of paper that I'm dealing with. And I'm just kind of centering this down toward the bottom. You can kind of see there. And now I'm going to fold this closed, and I'm going to take the release paper off of this side, and then I'm going to actually kind of roll this around up over the fold and then fold this paper. So it kind of, when you open it up, you'll kind of see there's like just a little bit of a pucker, but that's where it is when it's folded. And so I'm just going to go through here and make my little V cuts at each of the corners so that I can wrap this, like I said, just like I would do a regular chipboard book cover. So I'm going to go ahead and score this just a little bit because Felicity Jane paper is really thick, and I actually did end up making a little hole in there, which I will fix later too. But I'm just going to go ahead and add the double-sided adhesive. I added it on the edge of the cardboard and the edge of the paper, and you'll see I'm going to just kind of show how I'm doing this. So I'm going to do opposite edges first. So I'm going to do this section here, and then I'm just pulling back the release papers from the other thing. I have things falling all over my desk during this process because that paper kept hitting everything. So I apologize if you see random things falling. But you can see there, I just kind of rolled that around. Whenever you're dealing with kind of heavy duty chipboard, you want to kind of roll it around. It just gives you a better finished edge. So I'm just, you can see, kind of rolling it up around and then pushing it down. And you can see up at the top there, that's a little section that I ripped just a little bit. So I will actually glue that down later. But now I'm going to go to the side pieces, and I'm going to do those release papers. I'll show you this one more time. So that you could just kind of roll the chipboard kind of up on itself and then down toward the paper, and then it's going to cover everything. So now at this point you could cover the inside, but I realized I just didn't really feel like I needed to do that. The inside is not going to be seen or visible. So because that paper wrapped so much around into the inside, I just didn't even bother with it. You can see here I'm going to repair that little tear with a little bit of glue and just hold it. If I need to come back, I might put some washi tape or something. But again, this is going to be the back side, so I'm not really too worried about it. I got a little bit of glue back there as well, but that will all be fine when it dries. So now this is going to be the front section. You can see where those holes were from before. You're never going to be able to see it. So I had made a little template when I realized that those original holes were too close together. I made a little template and practiced with the little rings to kind of see what would be a good spacing. So I came up with this. I'm just going to use this to kind of line everything up. So I'm putting the cards down where they would be when they're open and lining them up with those holes. And then I'm going to just draw the holes onto the base section so that I can go in with my awl and make those holes. But this way I have them, spaced apart well enough that I can get my little binder rings through there. So you can see that's just using a little bit a pencil here through those holes, and then I'm going to do that same thing with my awl. I'm going to go through and punch those holes, and I'm going to actually go all the way up to the very top of my awl to get the biggest possible hole. So it leaves a little bit of a rough edge there because Felicity Jane paper is a white core paper, but I'm going to be able to cover that up. So I have this little tool from We Are Memory Keepers that punches out little like hole reinforcers. And so I'm going to use those. I didn't have the proper size of eyelet for this project. Otherwise I would have put some eyelets in there. And I also don't have one of those, like the big, eyelet setter that has like the long arm. I only have the little one, so I wouldn't be able to do those two at the top with eyelets. So I'm just adding, this is the paper from Bythewell4God that coordinates with the kit. I just punched my little hole reinforcers out of there, and now I'm going to add this little support piece in the center. So I'm putting this double-sided adhesive on the outer edges of the little W sections, so this piece is gonna go to, adhere to the front and the back sections. Sorry if this is very confusing. I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it, and it's hard to see a little bit on camera because of the angle of this. But I'm just using this. I have this scrapbook.com adhesive in multiple sizes because it's just perfect for everything, especially these kinds of projects. You can kind of see I'm just lining that fold parted up down at the bottom there. And now I'm going to add this top section. So you can kind of see how the middle part, the little mountain part, goes up into the middle of there. And I'm just going to hold this down, and now I'm going to fold this down over the top, and you can kind of see now that's just going to support everything. And I realized at this point I should have put my rings in, but I can stick my hand through there, and it just makes it a little bit fiddly. So I won't make you watch me fiddle with trying to get these in here, since I may actually put the the whole in later. But anyway, so this is what it looks like when it's finished. I'm just going to do kind of a little flip through. I did add some pattern paper both on the front and the back just for a little bit of interest. And then you can kind of see on the inside there how that looks. And then it's just going to sit here on my desk while I'm working through this month's devotional, and maybe you know, however long I want it to sit on my desk, I guess. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. If you like this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye.